their children need extra protection. We must also be crystal clear that while this was an attack on Jews because they were Jews, the Islamist extremism that motivated this sick individual is a threat to every citizen of this country, an attack on British values, British security, and the British decency that holds our communities together. Moreover, Mr. Speaker, we can see clearly that anti-Semitism is on the rise in Britain once again. So we will scale up the protection we provide for Jewish people. We will set out new measures to prevent hatred abusing the democratic right to protest. We will stop at nothing to root out anti-Semitism. And Mr. Speaker, the same applies to the arson attack on the Peacehaven Mosque. An attack on British Muslims is also an attack on us all. So we condemn this despicable crime and the poison of anti-Muslim hatred. We will fight against hate in all its forms. Mr. Speaker, let me now turn to the Middle East, and words I have longed to say in this House for a very long time. The surviving hostages are free. The bombardment of Gaza has stopped. And desperately needed aid is starting to enter as a result of the peace plan led by President Trump. We have the chance, and it is a chance, to bring a terrible chapter in history finally to a close. Mr. Speaker, it's a moment of profound relief for this House, for this nation, indeed for the whole world. But it is tempered, of course, by the knowledge that for the hostages and their families, for the loved ones of those killed on October the 7th, and for the innocent civilians in Gaza, the dead, the bereaved, the starving, this has been 2 years of living hell. I think of Avinatan Orr, who has family ties to the United Kingdom, returned at last to his family and to his girlfriend, Noah. Avinatan and Noah were taken from that music festival 2 years ago. The footage of their abduction, filmed by Hamas, evil, committed to camera. I've met Avinatan's family and heard for myself the agony that they suffered for 2 long years, waiting for him to come home. His frail condition, shocking evidence of the appalling treatment he must have endured. Mr. Speaker, we await the release of the deceased hostages. Those families need the chance to grieve, and so we demand that they return to their families immediately. Mr. Speaker, my thoughts are also with the people of Gaza, almost all of whom will have lost family members, husbands, wives, brothers, sisters, and of course, worst of all, sons and daughters. Over 20,000 children killed. I think of people like Yara Yagi, who I met a year ago, 17 years old. She was studying at college in Hertfordshire. She had lost 44 members of her family. 44. A pain that cannot be erased, even as we welcome the peace today. But, Mr. Speaker, mercifully, the killing and destruction has now stopped, and aid is beginning to enter Gaza. But, to be clear, we urgently need to see more aid and faster. All restrictions must now be lifted. The need for food, sanitation, healthcare and shelter are still acute. While the signing yesterday was historic, what matters now is implementation and getting help in as quickly as possible. The UK is providing £20 million in additional humanitarian support to get water, sanitation and hygiene products to tens of thousands of civilians across Gaza. That is in addition to the support that we're already providing our 2 field hospitals in Gaza have already seen 600,000 patients. And earlier this month, Mr. Speaker, we evacuated the 3rd group of sick and injured Palestinian children to the United Kingdom, and they are now being treated by the NHS. And we will work with the UN and our partners to go further and faster to provide the aid that is so desperately needed. And, Mr. Speaker, let no one be any doubt that none of this would have been possible without President Trump. This is his peace deal, delivered, of course, with President Sisi of Egypt, the Emir of Qatar, and President Erdogan of Turkey. Alongside our partners, we have also offered the UK's full support to these efforts. Mr. Speaker, we've worked behind the scenes for months with the US, Arab and European nations to help deliver a ceasefire, get the hostages out, get aid in, and secure a better future for Israel, Gaza and the West Bank. I am proud of our contribution. And Mr. Speaker, we are in a position to play this role precisely because of the approach this government takes. And Mr. Speaker, that does include our decision to recognise the state of Palestine, because this move, taken alongside our allies, France, Canada, Australia and others, helped lead to the historic New York Declaration, where for the first time the entire Arab League condemned the atrocities of October the 7th, urged Hamas to disarm, and crucially demanded that they end their rule in Gaza. But Mr. Speaker, let me be very clear. While we celebrate the relief of peace today, making that peace last will be no less difficult a task. Along with our allies, our absolute focus in the days and weeks ahead is the relentless implementation of this peace plan. That is no small challenge. And so we stand ready to deploy our diplomacy and expertise in 3 key areas. First, to support the reconstruction of Gaza. It is an immense task. The devastation defies description, and it will require a truly international effort. But we are ready to play our part, starting with a conference here in the United Kingdom this week, hosted by my honourable friend, the Minister for the Middle East. Second, to support transitional governance arrangements in Gaza. We will continue to work closely with the Palestinian Authority on the vital reforms that they need to make. And third, to help ensure security in Gaza through a ceasefire monitoring process, planning for the International Stabilisation Force. And, Mr. Speaker, drawing on our experience in Northern Ireland, we stand ready to play a full role in the decommissioning of Hamas weapons and capability. Because, as this House knows, there can be no viable future for Gaza, no security for Israel, if Hamas can still threaten bloodshed and terror. So we will work to put that threat out of action for good. Because, Mr. Speaker, this is the first real chance we've had at a 2-state solution since the Oslo Accords over 3 decades ago. So we are fully committed to this, because a safe and secure Israel, alongside a viable Palestinian state, is the only way to secure lasting peace for the Middle East. And I've been clear all along, Mr. Speaker, that must be our goal. So we will work now to follow through on the 20-point peace plan and deliver it in full, including by supporting a dialogue to agree on a political horizon for peaceful coexistence. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I want to update the House on my discussions with Prime Minister Modi last week in Mumbai. India is a growing force on the world stage, on track to have the 3rd largest economy by 2028. So, in addition to the bond we already share, the living bridge of family and history, we are also united by the future and the incredible opportunities that we see before us. That's why back in July we signed a historic trade deal opening up new opportunities for British businesses in India. And that's why last week I led the biggest British trade delegation to India ever. We announced that more British universities are opening campuses in India, making us their leading international education provider. We're deepening the UK-India Technology Security Initiative to boost opportunities for our brilliant tech sector. And we announced new deals and investments, including in advanced manufacturing, defence, car production, and Bollywood filmmaking here in the United Kingdom. These investments into the United Kingdom are worth £1.3 billion, and, Mr. Speaker, they will create 10,600 jobs. This is real change that people will see in their communities up and down the country. I set this out, Mr. Speaker, because it again speaks to our approach on the world stage, as do our deals with the United States and the EU, and the approach we bring to crises and conflicts as well. Because instead of threatening to walk away or indulging in the cheap political theatre that comes from castigating our allies that we need to deliver peace and economic stability in a dangerous, volatile world, we stay in the room, we trust in diplomacy, and we back the reputation, talent, and pride of this country to change the world to the benefit of the British people. A politics of national renewal that works with our partners rather than against them, that solves problems rather than exploits them, and that believes our openness to the world is what helps us take control of our future, rather than shutting the door and hoping for the best. That is how this government delivers for Britain, Mr. Speaker, and I commend this statement to the House.
Leader of the Opposition, Kemi Bedro.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'm grateful to the Prime Minister for advance sight of his statement. I remember almost 2 years ago meeting 3 mothers whose children had been stolen from them on October 7th and held captive in terror tunnels. They were living a nightmare unimaginable for any parent. Many of us on these benches have met hostages, their families, heard their stories, and supported them. Yesterday, it was truly momentous to finally see the return of the 20 living hostages who are now back home in Israel after over 730 days in terrorist captivity. The hostages released yesterday showed superhuman endurance in the face of evil, and we send every best wish to them and their families as they begin the process of rebuilding their lives. Yeah. We also mourn those hostages killed by Hamas and continue to call for all their bodies to be returned to their families. Mr. Speaker, we must never forget what happened on the 7th of October 2023. The abduction of men, women, and children was a calculated cruelty to break body, mind, and soul after inflicting the mindless horror of rape and murder. There is no cause, no grievance that can ever justify what happened that day. I, for one, will never forget. And the response from some in the West, the equivocation, the indulgence in whataboutery, and the drawing of false equivalence shows how far moral clarity has eroded. And we have got a job to do here at home, Mr. Speaker, to fix this. So on these benches, we stand alongside Israel in our shared fight against Islamist terror. Yeah. The conflict could have ended a long time ago if the hostages had been returned. So many Palestinian lives have been needlessly lost because of this war. Mr. Speaker, Hamas is a genocidal terrorist organization. A sustainable end to the suffering of civilians in Gaza means the complete eradication of Hamas and the dismantling of its terrorist infrastructure. Even now, we know that Hamas is still killing Palestinians in Gaza. The initial phase of the US-backed peace plan represents a significant breakthrough. I want to thank the US administration, President Trump, and regional mediators for having secured this outcome. They put in the hard yards and found solutions, making clear that all progress would depend on the release of the hostages, a condition that some other governments forgot. Mr. Speaker, with this peace deal, there is much to be hopeful for in the Middle East. If the Abraham Accords are expanded, a new age of peace will have arrived. We will see diplomatic normalization of Israel with the Arab world, something many of us have longed to see. And it saddens me that the Prime Minister's statement does not appear to show that the UK was at the heart of any of these efforts specifically. It is quite clear that UK relations with Israel have been strained by the actions of this government. Their view, and they have stated publicly, is that it looks like under pressure from his own backbenchers, the Prime Minister has taken the wrong decisions, time and time again, diminishing our influence in the region. They can shout shame as much as they want to, Mr. Speaker. Within weeks of Labour coming into power, they decided to restore funding to UNRWA. We haven't forgotten. An organisation, they say yes, that's an organisation whose members assisted in the kidnapping of these hostages, the release which we are celebrating today. Relations with Israel have been so damaged that when Israel launched strikes against Iran, a country that has been a direct threat to us for years, the UK was out of the loop. They may not like it, but it is the truth. And then, in a move praised by Hamas, Labour decided to recognise a state of Palestine with no condition to release the hostages still held in the tunnels of Gaza, rewarding terrorism. They may chant it from a sedentary position. I will remind them of what the former British-Israeli hostage, Emily Damari, said. She called it a moral failure. I'm surprised to hear the Prime Minister say in his statement that it was a contribution to this peace deal. We all know that the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio condemned this recognition, saying it had made ceasefire negotiations harder. That is what the US said. The truth is, as historic events have unfolded in the Middle East, Britain has been out of step with the US. The US ambassador to Israel even called the government's claim that it played a key role in the ceasefire delusional, something Israeli foreign ministers agreed with. Mr. Speaker, I welcome the Prime Minister's promise to scale up protection for Jewish people in our country. Britain has always been a sanctuary for British Jews. But after the tragic murder of 2 British Jews outside a synagogue in Manchester, the government must now do everything it can to eradicate anti-Semitism. The anti-Israel protesters who have turned our streets into theatres of hate have been relatively silent about the good news of a ceasefire and hostage return, showing us their real motivation. The Prime Minister mentioned in his statement the Palestinian Authority. Can he tell us whether the government's preference for the Palestinian Authority to take the reins in Gaza, if they have committed to end the pay-for-slay policies that reward families of terrorists for killing Israelis? Will it deal with anti-Semitism in education, and are they demonstrating any democratic progress? Mr. Speaker, there are also domestic implications. We need to strengthen our borders. Hamas is still running Gaza. Those who would be allowed to leave can only do so with Hamas's approval. We should not be bringing anyone to Britain with links to extremism, anti-Semitism, or to Hamas and other terrorists. So can the Prime Minister confirm whether he intends to bring people from Gaza to study, for healthcare, or for other purposes? And what measures are in place to ensure we are not importing extremism, anti-Semitism, or anyone linked to Hamas and other terrorists? Mr. Speaker, Britain is a great country and still a powerful one. We still have agency to shape the world around us. The government must do better and show it has the backbone to use Britain's power to make a better world.
Can I thank her for the words she said about the hostages just a moment ago, and I know how heartfelt they are. I was surprised and saddened that she spent more time attacking what we actually did to help the process than even mentioning the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, without setting out in terms the number of people that have been killed, that are starving, been subjected to denial of aid, when the immediate task for any serious government is to work with allies to get that aid in at speed. I would have expected at least an acknowledgement of that terrible situation. It shows yet again just how far her party has slid from serious statesperson approach to diplomacy. This is not the time for a fight about what role any individual played. I am proud of what Steve Witkoff said about our National Security Advisor. He was negotiating this. He knows absolutely the role we played. And this House should be proud that we played that role. We played that role only because of the relationship that this government has with the Trump administration. We are a trusted partner working both before this peace deal and afterwards. And yes, I did discuss recognition of Palestine with President Trump when he was over here. That's what grown-up, responsible partners do, unlike the discussion here. And I'd stand by my words that the first time in New York was the first time that other countries in the region were clear in their condemnation of Hamas. That was a key and important aspect of what has now happened. In relation to her questions, she will know from the reforms that have already been committed to that the Palestinian Authority and any elections will not tolerate any election of individuals or parties that are not committed to a peaceful process. That is an absolute red line. It is part of the agreement. It's what we've been talking to other allies about for a very, very long time. On healthcare cases, yes, as I reported, we have had healthcare cases coming to the United Kingdom and students, and of course we're extremely careful in the checks that we carry out on everybody that comes to this country. But I return, Mr. Speaker, to the fact that this is a historic deal. It is important for the region. It is important for the world. It is to be celebrated across this House because of the relief it brings to the hostages and their families in particular, and to the many thousands of people in Gaza. And I was, as I say, surprised and saddened that she overlooked what to me is a really important part of the resolution of this conflict.
Chair of the International Development Committee, Sir Richard.